What's going on, guys? So I was looking into the recently retired machine HackTheBox platform, and I found the dog machine, which is rated as easy, and also it is free. You can also spawn this machine and practice. Basically, this machine is perfect if you are preparing for OSCP and CPTS. It's easy machine, still on the easy tier of the preparation. However, it is still useful to practice such kind of machines to prepare for OSCP or CPTS. So I'm gonna spawn the machine and we will get started. After spawning the machine, the first thing we usually do is to scan the machine for open ports and available running services. So I use this command, the noisy version of an nmap scan, because here I use the aggressive scan -a and here -3 to scan for services. Definitely this is a type of scan that you should avoid in production environments, or if you're doing this to a client, because this triggers the rules, the IDS rules and firewall rules, and it will block your attempts immediately. Anyway, and I discovered that there are two open ports, 22 for SSH and 80 for HTTP. And there are directories that the scan was able to reveal. For example, we have /core, /profiles, /webconfig, /admin, very useful directories for enumeration. So basically, the one that stood out is, first we have /user//login. Obviously, it's going to be used to log into the admin dashboard or to any user's dashboard. And also we have this one, q=admin. And also we have this Git repository. So there is a Git repository that runs on the server. Now basically, if you're trying to discover the contents of this Git repository, you will see directory listing of its contents. Directory listing is a bad way of presenting information on a service running on your server, because it will allow an attacker or anyone to sneak peek into the files that exist and that are stored in the said service or the said directory. In my case here, we can just retrieve the contents here to our local machine using a specialized tool that downloads any Git repository contents. So here we have git-dumper. Basically, the installation is easy. If you're using the pawn box in HackTheBox, it doesn't come pre-installed, so you're gonna have to install the tool. So basically, I went through the installation. So I use git clone to download the tool. Okay, using git clone followed by the URL. And then when I tried to run the tool, I actually encountered an error. You see, there are missing packages, such as requests package 12. So to install the missing packages, all you have to do is to issue the command pip install request packages. This will install any missing packages that the tool requires. The next thing to do is to run the tool. So to run the repository dumper, all you have to do is to use or to type Python, the name of the tool, git dumper, followed by the URL that points to the repository. In this case, it is the machine IP /git/.git. And then we specify the directory that stores the output of the repository. So after downloading all of this, see there are a lot of files in this repository, which makes it definitely not comfortable going through the repository manually. It's very suggested that you download these to your local machine instead of just trying to browse the repository online. So once we downloaded the repository contents, we can see the directories and files. And here there is a file that stands out. The name is settings. If you start to open the file, you must actually find something that very interesting. We have database credentials. So it starts here, MySQL root, and this is definitely a password. So this is the username and password for the MySQL database. Unfortunately, MySQL database is not open to be interacted with. The port is closed, so basically we cannot just try to log into the MySQL database. So that's the password and that's username. That's all what you may find in this file. So we take a note of the password, and the next thing I want to do is to search the other directories and files. Since we have found something interesting here, combination of username and password, we should be actually curious as to if there are other files or if there are other plain text credentials, API keys that may be found in one of these directories or files. However, we just mentioned that there are a lot of files here. So the way to go is to use grep. We use a grep to look for a string of interest. For example, what I did first, I used grep on the username root. Let's just scroll up. Oh, there's a lot of text here. Okay, let me rerun the command because honestly it makes me angry to sift through all of this. So basically you can use grep and then -i, and here I'm going to use the password. So basically I'm going to copy the password and see where else the password is mentioned. This may reveal other usernames other than the root. And then -r for recursive search dot to search the current directory. Alright, so as you can see, the password is mentioned only in one place or in one location, which happens to be the location of the settings file we have just examined. Alright, let's look for other instances where the root is mentioned. And we're going to pipe the output to less because we don't want to be overwhelmed with the number of lines that we're about to see. Okay. But obviously this is not helpful because we want a colored output. So we're going to quit and I'm going to use maybe head. So these are the first 10 lines. We can specify the number of lines using -n and maybe 20 and so on. However, because we want a colored output, we're going to just to execute the command as is. And now we can see the word we looked for, which happens to be root, is colored, and also the location or the name of the file where the string is mentioned. We will discover the hostname of the machine, dog@dog.htp. So that's the hostname of the machine, which also can be added to the host file, but not required for now. So I do not see anything interesting here. So maybe we can start to search with the hostname of the machine. Next, we start with maybe dog.htp. And we have this line. As you can see, this line mentions a username, Tiffany@dog.htp. Now, this is definitely a valid username. Now, to attempt or to try this username, we're going to just go to the login page and click on login. And from here, try Tiffany and the password that was revealed earlier in the settings file. So let's copy this, login. And now we are logged into one of the usernames. Maybe there are other usernames, we just don't know. And it looks like this is an administrator username because, as you can see, we have the administration dashboard here. And now we're going to start to discover ways of controlling this site, and maybe we can use it as a leverage to establish a reverse shell to the underlying server. Okay, so I will look for any indications of this theme or CMS version. So maybe we can check out the config. And from here, look for anything that has to do with the site information, maybe. Scrolling down. So nothing here. Maybe we can check other sections, system updates. So here also we cannot find the version. Maybe check the modules. So from the modules section, we can see the name of the modules and the category and the version. So this version may look the version of the module. However, we can see the same version across all the modules, which means that this is the version of the CMS we have just accessed. Now we know that the CMS name is backdrop. So now the version of the system is 1.27.1. And now we know the system name, backdrop. The next thing we want to do is to check if there are exploits for this version. So to do that, we can check out exploit database. Or from the command shell here, you can just clear and use search exploit and the name of the CMS backdrop. Let's have a look. So according to search exploit, we have exploits for version 1.20, 1.23, and 1.25. However, the stated version here is 1.27. It's worth mentioning that sometimes we may need to cross-validate the results from the command line tools with the results we see on the web. So now if we check the web results, maybe we can write exploit db backdrop. Okay, backdrop CMS 1.27.1. So backdrop CMS authenticated RCE. Okay, backdrop CMS. So I'm wondering why it doesn't show up here. All right, anyway, so we're going to go back, and this exploit works only if we are authenticated. We have already access to the CMS, which means we are authenticated. So we pass the criteria of the exploit. So we're going to go ahead and download the exploit by clicking on this button, check downloads, and from here, I'm going to save the exploit. Now, we're going to open up the directory that stores the exploit, and from here, check this out, right-click the exploit, and we're going to have a look at the exploit code because we want to know what are the required command line arguments that we need to pass for the exploit to correctly work, and also when I want to understand how the exploit works. So these are the required libraries, system libraries for the exploit to work. And here we have a function that create files. So let's now sift through the functions. We have a function that creates a zip file, and the zip file that it creates, it is shell. So basically here, this is probably the shell that will be uploaded or will be generated by the exploit. And we have the main function define main URL print backdrop CMS. So this will be printed for to the user, and when the user runs the exploit. And here we have print evil module generating, sleeps for 2 seconds, and then it generates the zip file. So basically, the exploit generates a web shell, and then it specifies to the user where the user should upload the generated web shell. So basically, go to admin, modules, install, and upload the web shell. Okay, now here we see how the exploit works, basically from the command line. So the usage, Python, script.py, and specify the URL. So here I'm going to assume that we provided the URL of the website or the CMS. Getting back to the contents of the download section directory, we can see the shell that has been generated in a zip format, or we can see directory structure for the shell. So we're going to go ahead and use tar-c vf and then shell.tar and specify the file that we want to convert into tar, the directory, sorry, so shell. Okay, and now we have the shell in a format that complies with the specified format in the backdrop CMS. We're going to attempt to re-upload the file. So click on the tar version, click on install, and shell was successfully installed. So we're going to proceed and go ahead to the directory that holds or stores the shell. So basically, this could be browse new modules or list the modules, and we should see our shell here. Use. If you don't see the shell here, it means that we need to browse to the shell manually. So if you click on one of the modules, so they're not clickable, once you click configure, okay, so you see /admin modules, and then if we browse to shell, tar, so the correct path would be modules/shell, and then /shell PHP. So how do we know that? Still didn't work. Let's remove the admin from here and try to access it, and now it works. So why this path? Because you see, when the shell is uploaded, it will be unzipped. And we already know the unzipped form of the shell. Check it out here. So as you can see, this is the file that we uploaded, and that's the file before it is unzipped. If we browse to shell and take a look at the contents, we see we have two files, the actual web shell and the info file. And that matches the way we browsed or the way we've navigated to the file /shell/shell.php. If we try to execute a random command, id, the requested URL was not found. Let me refresh the page. It looks like it was removed. Let me check out this machine is still running. It's running. Let's go back and re-upload the file. My account. So from the modules, install a new module, manual. Okay. So quickly we go to shell/shell PHP. Don't forget the modules. Try to execute ID. So now we have successfully established an RC. So That's the username, or that's the username of the server. So quickly, let's spawn a reverse shell back to my machine. So nc lvp 4545, that's the listener. That's not the correct one. 4545, my preferred port. And we check back here. Let's go ahead and grab a reverse shell from here, preferably a netcut reverse shell. So that's netcut one-liner. It may not work depending on the configuration. So let me see if there is a bash reverse shell. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Of course, we're gonna have to do a quick edit on the parameters, including the IP and the port. The port is 4545. The IP should be the IP of my machine. Quickly if config. And this is the IP address of the machine. Now we're gonna go back and paste this. Execute. And we're back to not found error. Okay, let's keep this here. And we're gonna see. So it looks like it is being auto-deleted every couple of seconds, which is frustrating. Back to my account. I'm gonna need to re-upload the shell. You can skip this section if you don't want to watch it. So basically upload the tar file, install. Now /modules/shell. Okay, have a look at this. Paste. Looks like it did not work. Let's go back and try it again. But this time we're going to try with bash-c. Execute. Yep, looks like we did it. And that's reversal. So ID, and now we've got reversal access. Okay, once we're there, we use cat etc passability to check out the current users in the machine. So we have two users with available shells. We have the first one, John Cusack. As you can see, this user has an active shell, and the other one is Jobert. So basically, what you can do here, you can try to log in to one of these users using the password that we have tried earlier. So, which means, let's write SSH, and then the username. Let's try with this one. Then looks like we're gonna need the address of the machine. Copy this, go back. Okay, now we need the password. So the password can be found in the settings file. If you remember, it's the same password we just found it while we were browsing the Git repository. So copy and here paste. Okay, let's try the other user now. I hope this user works. And now the password, using the same password we found earlier, copy and paste, and we're in. ID. So these are John Cusack. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is to check out the privileges of this user. We can run the command sudo -l to check out the commands that the user can run as a privileged user, i.e. the root user -l. Again, the password. So this user can run this command, user local bin b, as you can see, as all users, meaning if there are other users, such as the ones we encountered earlier, John Cusack can run this tool as these users. You can do that using -u, followed by the name of the user, and then you specify the command. However, we are looking here to get access to the user root. So basically, we can use this command, execute it, and get root access, since we can do that, as you can see here. Run as all users. So from here, I checked out the help menu of the tool P, since I have no idea what this tool does. It's the first time I see it. Basically, you can execute. You see here we have executed B help. And one of the options I saw here is --root. Specify the root directory of the backdrop installation to use. If not set, we'll try to find the backdrop installation automatically based on the current directory. So what we have to do here, we have first to specify the root directory of the backdrop installation. Looks like this tool is tied to the backdrop CMS. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to specify the root directory of the backdrop installation, which happens to be var www.html. Now, scrolling down, we can see there are options to execute system commands. Under advanced, scrolling down to at the very end, under advanced, we can execute database queries and we can execute system functions or system commands using eval. Okay, so the next thing we want to do here is a sudo b-root equal, and then specify the root directory of the web server, var www.html, and then eval, and here system. Oops. So eval has to be without double quotes, and then space, and then system, open two parentheses, two single quotes inside them, execute bin bash to have a root shell. Otherwise, without this option, without the specification of the root directory of the backdrop CMS, you could just use sudo b and then take advantage of the eval command to execute bin bash. But we are actually obliged to specify the backdrop CMS according to the options. If we try to execute this now, and we have a root shell, as you can see. So now the shell has turned from the previous user to root. So ID, var cd/root, and now we can view the flag of the root user. So that was it.